And radio style. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Finally, the big day has come. I've finally got a chance to do these videos for Agnes and I when we did our very long talk, mind you. So I'm going to be releasing 2 of those today, which you are probably seeing as of right now, both of them, most likely. But this one's going to be kind of more of a manifesting someone in your life in the general context. And the one that I'm going to do after, which I'll do an intro, outro on that as well. But that one's going to be more in line with doing a specific somebody. So if there's someone in mind that you're trying to manifest into your life and you believe that's possible, because again, we talk about that in the video, but belief is key on this. If you don't believe it, then go a different path. If you do believe it, go down that path. Whatever you can get your beliefs in line with is going to have a lot to do with what you actually are able to manifest. So to not waste any more time, Agnes and I are talking about, and also look in the show notes below too. I plug her website, her YouTube channel, and she's got a place where she sells books and does coaching. She's got a couple different websites, so please check out the links below. And hopefully you enjoy what we did together. Agnes is in Sydney, but when we recorded this, I guess she was in London at the time. And we will be going out with "Love the One You're with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So hopefully you enjoy.
Since that's really key to your audience, and I think it's actually a great thing to talk about. Why don't we focus on that, but maybe kind of center it somewhat on the moods side of that, because I'd certainly be very curious your take on that. And I've watched a couple of your videos, and you linked 3 of Goddard's videos recently, and I watched the second one. It was very short, and frankly, I didn't think it was horribly helpful. He kind of talked about how he was able to get the divorce to happen and all that. I'm like, well, that's wonderful. I guess if you're married, that is an obstacle, a pesky obstacle that you need to remove. But
yeah.
So when it comes to trying to manifest a specific person, I guess a couple questions I would have is, one, is it okay to have a very specific person in mind? I mean, if they're not in your life yet, that a lot of people might be, well, maybe they're not supposed to. So I'd be curious what you think on that. And then 2, I would assume the mood aspect of it, to deal with Goddard's concept of moods, would be more to kind of what would it feel like when you're together already? So like a month or 2 into your relationship, the honeymoon phase is still going hot and heavy. What are those kinds of feelings? And I'd be curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, well, look, there's 2 schools of thought with this. There's a lot of people, like Florence Scovel Shinn, who's been dead a long time now. She came from the mindset that you pray for the divine design of a person, and then you allow that person to come. She was not a believer in you can manifest a specific person. Neville Goddard obviously believes in you can manifest a specific person, because he actually tested and trialed it, and then he got the result. So some people are really dead against it. It's kind of an area of controversy, because some people say you shouldn't force your will upon things. But the thing is, if you want to manifest, say, a car or a job, some people say, I really want to work for this company. I'm really going to focus on that, and I'm going to try and get a job there. And the thing is, if you've got a specific person that you are not forcing your will upon it. You are selecting it, because, this is going to bring up another
I agree. And I don't want to get off where you're at. I like where you're at, but I think you did a video not long ago where you talked about there was like 4 different ways. There's one where the 2 of you are together and you've decided to be together, and and so I believe in regards to what you're talking about, as far as forcing your will on another one, I don't believe we can. You've always got the power of free will. But what I think you're doing is you're putting that energy out there. And if the individual is in a place to make that choice, am I on the right track? If they're in agreement with that idea and that energy, then they're probably going to start walking down that path and join up with you. Does that sound close?
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, you are here, whatever you want's over here. And if that thing over here is a person, what you're doing is you're creating a line of energy between you and it through focus. And then you bring it in through allowing. So you're not actually because people say, oh, it's manipulative and you're trying to force something that maybe shouldn't happen and all that stuff. So there's a whole bag of different beliefs that people have. I mean, I personally have done it, so I know that it's possible. I also had times where I tried it and it didn't work. And this was when I, say I first started reading Neville, and I was still had wiggly legs about manifesting.
Right.
So, and I'll be honest, even knowing what I knew about Neville, it did take, because we were living in different countries, a lot of focus to collapse space and time between where he was and where I am, and believing that it was possible to do it across that massive amount of physical distance.
I agree. And I think, well, one, what's funny is I think a lot of us start to realize is distance is really not real.
No.
So that's a big leap. And then I think, too, it's practicing, certainly here in the States, and I'm assuming Australia is somewhat similar, but here in the States, like, we are so programmed to watch TV and have things presented to us that we don't imagine anymore, that our imaginations have been lying dormant since we were probably 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and, and stopped imagining being a princess or playing cowboys and Indians or whatever, army, whatever the heck, kids are doing these days. But I think the other side of it is that practicing and getting more comfortable with imagining, because frankly, when I started this, that was kind of the trickier part, is doing the same thing over and over. And I'm noticing that the picture is becoming more and more clear in my mind. And there's like 3 things that I'm manifesting right now. And it's kind of fun to see how things are playing out. But as soon as I started doing it, a lot of things started lining up. And oddly, Australia keeps popping up a lot, which is really weird to me. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's a place I've always wanted to go. And I've always had a fascination with Australia in general. But I have no idea why Australia's been popping up. You're a part of that. There was a customer that came into that little coffee shop I work at on Sundays. And they were from Australia. And I made the same mistake, misnaming their accent. Because I'm a bit special when it comes to that. But yeah, it's weird. And then there's another couple people on Instagram that are from Australia that are following me. So it's kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's that thing when you appreciate something, or you're drawn to something, it's drawn to you as well.
That's true.
It's drawn to you. This is what is so exciting and fascinating about all the Neville stuff, is that nothing's set in concrete. And then this, like what you were talking about, that YouTube about selection, it's like all the different quantum possibilities exist, like books on the bookcase, and you choose the book that you want to read.
That was amazing. That was honestly probably one of the best illustrations of that point I've ever heard. That was awesome.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I really like that.
It gets really, like, people say, like, yeah, I read that, but what does that mean?
Right.
Because
for anyone that might see it on my channel that haven't seen it, but you had talked about where you could have like 5 different colors, and I think you were talking about colors or something like that, right? Like, the different colored books. Right, different colored books. And so you might have an orange, a yellow, a red, a blue, a green. Yeah. And just because you grab the blue book and read it doesn't mean the other 4 colors aren't still sitting there. And I thought that was brilliant, because you're keying in on the blue. So in the case of what we're talking about in a relationship, you're keying in on a specific somebody, and maybe that somebody is blue. And maybe it doesn't work out, and maybe it spans into someone else. I mean, I still think there's that, once you're putting that energy out there and really trying to manifest, that if that individual that you're trying to choose isn't going to come on board for whatever reason, it probably would lead to another that's very similar, or probably maybe even a better choice. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Could be. I mean, I think a lot of people do that. Oh, this is something better, because that comes kind from.
And I agree. That's an ugly term.
Well, no, but the thing is, if you believe that, then that works for you.
Okay. Okay. True. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that belief. Every belief you have is supported by evidence in the 3D world that comes at you. So if people say, oh, there's more fish in the sea, and you might get this or something better, and you believe that and you take that on as your belief system, then you will get the evidence of that. Somebody said to me recently, I was following someone on their YouTube channel, and they said, Agnes, that you can't manifest a specific person. And she said, and I'm listening to you and you're saying that you can. And I said, look, there are different ways around the circle. And I said, law of attraction interpretation is a bit like, for thousands of years, people have interpreted the Bible. There's still completely different ways of doing it.
How many different versions have they written for that matter? Right, exactly.
So I said to her, you choose what you want to believe. You follow which belief you want, and then you will get the evidence of that belief. And she said, well, I've got a specific person in mind. I said, I found that information really distressing. I said, well, there you go. You go, I don't want to believe that. You believe what you want, and then you follow it. And I said, you know that Neville manifested a specific person. I said, you know that I've manifested a specific person. And I said, you know, I've written about 10 stories that have other people that have actually, I went hunting for stories of people that had done it. So I found them.
Yeah.
So, and now, of course, because of the internet, you can access that kind of information. So it's, everybody's got their beliefs going. So,
and I think you're keying in on something super important, which is the belief. And I've talked about it in some of my stuff too. I think that's where maybe law of attraction helps a little too, where it kind of helps us hone in that our day-to-day thoughts that we might sometimes beat ourselves up with. But ultimately it comes down to what do you believe? What are you able to wrap your head around and accept and just run forward with that concept versus constantly having self-doubt, or like that lady you were talking about where it's like, well, I can't do it. Well, I can do it. Well, I can't. Well, you're going to have to make up your mind and get in line with one of those.
Exactly.
And if you can't, then don't, and just, you know, manifest a person or believe that you can and do it.
Yeah.
But I agree. There's examples of both all over the place. And I think it is whatever we set our minds to. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. And also, you know, I get a lot of people from the YouTube channel sending me emails saying, you know, because they're trying to put all this stuff into practice and they're trying to draw their specific person to them without any kind of, you know, going out there and contacting them too much and trying to pull them in. It's like you've got to allow and stop picking the fruit before it's ripe on the tree. So it's like the people that have sent the emails have often gone to psychics because they're looking for reassurance.
Right.
And then they end up hearing all sorts of stuff that either totally destroys their dream because the psychic said, oh yeah, that person's never going to walk towards you. You may as well give it up.
Right. It's like,
and then they say to me, now what do I do? And I said,
Yeah.
well, number one, note to self, don't go to psychics for reassurance. Yeah. Number two, to make it easier for you, because I thought I did that too when I was in the 90s or when I was really not understanding that I create stuff.
Right.
I did the same thing. And then I heard something and then I couldn't eat for 2 months and I couldn't sleep because it was so distressing because it was crushing my dream.
Well, it's like they'll talk about the energy that's around you at the moment, and then you're putting a lot of faith in someone that who knows how good or gifted or truly in line.
Exactly. And it's like the diagnosis from a doctor when you're trying to work out whether you're going to live or die because you've got some temporary illness, and then you believe the diagnosis and then you die.
Or it's like the people that have some sort of a couple symptoms and they go online and try to self-diagnose and they got some crazy life-threatening disease all of a sudden. It's like, what?
Exactly.
Who told you that?
Exactly. That's awesome. You know, I was saying to these people, note to self, don't go to psychics for reassurance. But also, if you have done it and you bloody well heard something terrible, remember, this is a moment in time. And they've more than likely, if you want to make it to ease your, you know, painful hurt and stuff you've heard, view it as they've read my worst fears and then they've photocopied it back. And that's what they saw was what if this doesn't happen? And then they've read off that energy. So,
and again, on that same concept, they're like you said, they're Xeroxing or photocopying exactly where you are right now. But what we're talking about with this Goddard, with law of attraction, with all this stuff is we actually create our realities. It's not happening to us.
Yep.
Really, that's where even like the moods, when we were talking about that coming into play, like you almost really have to kind of own that, like I control my life, I manifest my own realities. And then it's like, wow, now how's it going to feel when I finally have this thing that I'm trying to manifest? What will that feel like? What's my mood going to be? What's my energy going to feel like at that point?
All right, well, I hope you guys liked that video. We're going to go ahead and close it out with a little Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and then, of course, stay tuned for the more specific part of trying to manifest somebody in your life. And I think this was very good stuff. Agnes actually managed to do it, and so she talks about some of the specifics that she went through in that process. So that's the next video. Stay tuned for that. Going out with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Love the one you're with.
And there's a rose in the fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Love the one you're with. Love the one you're with.